Hi everyone, this is Paul here from the Magazine Centre. Today I'm doing the report for the Sun's transit through Aquarius, starting on the 20th of January and finishing on the 18th of February when the Sun moves out of Aquarius and into Pisces. Now Aquarius is the next step in consciousness along from Capricorn, so I'll just briefly outline Sun's transit through Capricorn and what we've been experiencing. So with the Sun in Capricorn, it's been about developing our own personal integrity. It's about finding a purpose in life that's unique to ourselves and pursuing it in order to maximise our own personal potential and become the best, most authentic version of ourselves that we can be, although it's still based on self-interest to some extent, because it's figuring out who we are and taking the steady steps towards our own personal goals and our own personal sense of mission in life. But once we get to the top of that, once we get to the top of the mountains, can't climb any higher. There's only one place to go down again, and that's down towards the community below. So with Aquarius, we've achieved what we set out. So we've got our accomplishments, but now the things that we've gained through our work, now we give them away. We share them with others. So with Aquarius, it's about looking at the altruistic use of our resources. It's about looking at the wisdom and knowledge that we've gained through our own personal journey and figuring out how can we share this with people to help better humanity as a whole. And Aquarius is also about self-realization and individuation. It's learning to separate ourselves from the collective in consciousness to figure out who we are as a unique spark of the collective whole. And for most of us, this doesn't happen completely. We don't completely separate ourselves. We tend to achieve this through groups, through identifying groups that are similar to us. So with Aquarius, the modern day ruler is Uranus, but it's worth looking at the original ruler Saturn in this respect as well, because with Saturn, we could end up using Aquarius to trying to achieve a sense of security within a group setting, and to try and reaffirm our sense of identity through spending time with specific groups. But with any group situation, ideally we would still contribute towards it. We wouldn't just be there trying to gain things for ourselves. It's about working together. So we may start off with looking at how can we feel more secure by being part of a community, but eventually we also need to look at realising that we're not that community, though we may have certain things in common. Each one of us is unique in our own way, and the only way we can be our best selves is to spend some time alone to figure out who we are. And it's a time for meditating and connecting with the higher mind, because Uranus rules the higher mind that connects everyone together. At some level, we're all connected to a collective mind, but for us to work to connect that, or for us to be our best selves, we need to separate ourselves from the influences of others to figure out who we are as a unique individual and separate out what isn't us, so we're not trying to pretend to be something that we're not, and we don't fall for the trap within Aquarius, which is conformity to the whole. So it's allowing fear of isolation or fear of disapproval to lead to social conformity and following the crowd, even if the crowd isn't going in a direction that's particularly healthy. So Uranus is the part that awakens us up to the higher potential, awakens us to the fact that everything is interconnected, but for the whole to be healthy, the individual parts must also be healthy. So if we can understand who we are at the deepest level and become the best and brightest version of ourselves we can be, we can then connect with the vision, or the higher vision of humanity that unites us all together at a certain level, but with which many of us either are or have at some point in our lives been disconnected from this higher vision. Once we understand this vision, we can then come back and work within groups as unite as like-minded individuals, people with the same goals or the same mindsets. And these won't be goals towards self-need or self-serving. they're goals that are based on a higher vision of humanity, so a vision that helps humanity and gives people an opportunity to improve their lives and make our communities better than they are at the moment. So the more we do the internal work of knowing who we are, acknowledging our unique selves, and then sharing that with the world and sharing our insights, we can then serve the higher function of Aquarius, which is to achieve self-realization and facilitate other people's journey along the same steps by working together in communities, creating communities that are aligned with that vision, aligned with a common purpose, and work together with a spirit of love and spirit of mutual empowerment and the betterment of humanity as a whole. But we have to take those steps individually, and we also have to have the courage to acknowledge or accept social disapproval, because not everyone's going to understand us. Each one of us is unique, and if we just go with the crowd, no one's actually going to know who we really are. So for us to be the best version of ourselves and to really make any positive difference, we need to know who we are at the deepest levels first. We need to allow the intuitions from the higher mind uniting that connects everyone together as one, and allow this intuition to show us what changes we need to make within ourselves first of all, and then within our external environments, in order to shine humanitarian light, to engage in altruistic pursuits, and to engage in humanitarian endeavours which are based on the desire to serve humanity, to help humanity rise to its great potential. Because at the end of the day, we're not operating from the greatest extents of our mind. We're not using all of our resources. There's so much more potential within us, but we have to take charge of our lives. We have to take the steps within our own personal lives in order to take that journey to become the best version of ourselves, to realise what gifts we have, what visions and knowledge we have that can help other people, and then to share them with people, and to set a goal that is based on helping the needs of the collective, helping empower other people, and working together with like-minded individuals towards that goal. Because the goals that Aquarius sets are not ones that a single individual can achieve on their own. It requires working in groups, it requires collaboration, and it requires community. And it's achieving that unity within the community and working together with an attitude of mutual empowerment, of encouraging each other to be the best version of themselves, encouraging each other to be who we are rather than pressuring people to conform to a certain way of being or conform to a stereotype. And it's honouring the divine spark in each and every one of us and sharing it in a spirit of giving and a spirit of empowerment. But we have to overcome the fear of disapproval. We have to overcome the tendency to cling to groups, to avoid responsibility, and just use those groups to not as a form of a security blanket rather than as an arena for further growth as individuals and further mutual growth as a collective whole. But if we don't do this work of individuation, then chances are we'll identify with a group and we may base our identity on it, which can be dangerous if the group is unhealthy, and we can end up taking actions based on social pressure, which we don't want to do. I mean, the South Node is in Aquarius at the moment, so as the Sun passes over that towards the end of January, we'll be looking at seeing where the Aquarian side of ourselves manifests as aloofness rather than engagement, and where we just go with the flow of the crowd rather than letting the divine flow show us. Because the two flows are completely different. If we go with the crowd, we won't go any further than the crowd. If we go with the divine flow, we will manifest things which are mutually beneficial for both ourselves and the people around us, and will push the evolution of humanity's consciousness forward. But that won't happen if we stick with the crowd and rely on social approval and allow peer pressure to dictate our actions. If we can go through the individuation and have the resilience to stand hard and firm in the face of pressure to hide our truth, and we honour our truth, and we share it with the people who are ready to embrace the same process and work together aligned with those truths in order to create a better society. But we have to take those individual steps ourselves, and we have to avoid or develop the resistance to social pressure necessary to stay strong and committed to truth, rather than in going through substitute routes, which could be things like being rebellious for the sake of rebellion, but being a rebel without a cause. If we know who we are, the cause makes itself known to us, and we can then link up with people with a similar drive and work together to create a better society for the whole. So I hope this useful guide for the Sun in Aquarius may bring many blessings, and may it bring us deeper communities, stronger communities, and the re-emergence of community in a world that's become increasingly separated and divided. So I hope this useful guide. May the Sun in Aquarius bring you many blessings. Take care.